All right, what's up, Duck Hunters? Let's talk about all of the things that I know about the vacation rental market in general, and the things that you need to know so you understand the industry, and then you can represent clients like nothing, right? Like a piece of cake. Let's talk about the things that the vacation rental clients look for, right, whenever they're trying to lease a unit, and these things that you need to keep in mind, right? You need to understand how the business works, right, and what's like the most valuable asset, okay? So the whole point, the whole goal, and the whole point of a vacation rental business, right, or any kind of Airbnb business, short-term rental business, is that they're trying to lease as many units as possible in very, very hot cities that are profitable, right? So like downtown Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, even Boston, Nashville, Tennessee, Florida, all of these cities that are really, really popular with short-term rentals. They're trying to lease up like a million units, right? The reason they're trying to do this, even though it's profitable and there is profitable return on a monthly basis because of the business revenue, that's not actually the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to be able to scale up, to a thousand unit portfolio and then sell to an investor, right? I was taught by a CEO of the first major short-term rental client. They told me all of this and how their business worked, right? And they had 500 units under their portfolio, right? So the biggest asset for a vacation rental company are the contracts, right? So the contracts, the long-term contracts are actually the biggest asset in the whole business. So what do I mean by that? Whenever they lease a unit, right? Let's say you find them 10 units as an apartment locator and they try to sign a lease, right? So they always want to sign a lease like as long as possible, not only because it saves them a lot of money with their furnishing solution whenever they furnish and finance furniture, because they have their own furnishing solution, but the main reason they're trying to do this is because the longer month term that they have under a contract, the more valuable that asset is. Because remember, the asset is the contract. Because if they have 1,000 units each at a 36-month term instead of a standard year term, now they can go to an investor and say, hey, and Mr. Investor is about to buy out my company for like $1 billion. We have 1,000 units spread across the U.S. in very strategic, highly profitable cities. And check this out. We've proved concept for a year. Look at all this revenue that we've been earning spread out 1,000 units in a year. Isn't that good return after a year? And the investors were like, well, yeah, you're making a lot of money. But then the asset is that they have another 2 years locked down on a contract, right? So then they can show their investors, hey, you can expect the same return at least 2 years in advance because we've locked down a 36-month term, right? And we've established a good relationship so you can, with the property management. So then that's why it's so valuable, because with an investor, before they buy out a vacation rental company, they want to see guaranteed returns on revenue. And so that's why, it's whenever, if you're asking yourself, like, why do these vacation rental companies want like 36-month terms when they can just sign a 15-month lease term? Well, that's why, right? And so whenever you go about leasing and you're trying to connect them with units and with buildings, you wouldn't say this to a property manager. You would say that they're looking for longer than normal lease terms. But then once you're actually in a meeting or in a conference call between you, your client, and the decision maker, then you would reveal that, hey, we actually want up to 30-month terms. The longer the better, basically, right? And so that's sort of why you need to understand that they need longer than normal lease terms, right? So now the second thing we need to talk about is that, a lot of the times these property managers and the vacation rental client, it's like a mutual interest to be able to stagger the lease terms. And by what I mean by like staggering the lease terms is that, let's say you leased 15 units for a vacation rental client at one time, right? And they all ended like 12 months in the future, or 30 months in the future, right? So you wouldn't want all units to just vacate on the same date, because if a property has 10 vacancies of 2 bedrooms or 15 vacancies of 2 bedrooms that all ended on the same date, it's like, well, that's really, really bad for the building, because now they drop in vacancy very, very quickly, right? And their owners don't want to see that as well. They really don't want to see that. And so it's not really in the building's interest to have all these vacancies just end on the same date. They'd rather have some end like 3 months or 2 months apart, right? So it's just easier for the natural leasing of those units. So that's why the buildings want that to happen. It's sort of similar with your vacation rental client, right? Whenever a lease term ends for them, if all of them end at one time and something happens and the building they don't want to renew with that vacation rental company, well, now logistically speaking, it's harder for the vacation rental client because now they have like 10 units of furniture and stuff that they have to keep in storage, right? So it's, that's kind of a headache, right? And it's very expensive when all of a sudden, as a business expense, you've got like 15 two-bedrooms to move out of because they're not going to let you renew your lease. And so the staggering of the lease terms, if like a couple, like 3 units end in, 3 months apart, like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, all 3 months apart, now if they don't want to renew certain units, like 3 units, at least they have 3 units of stuff to deal with storage instead of like 15 all at once, right? So it's financially, they stay more liquid, right? There's more cash in their banks as a company. So that's why staggering, keep that in mind, and you want to ask for that, as the conversation progresses. Dallas, get out of here. And so, definitely keep that in mind, duck hunters. It's a very, very important term, the staggering of the lease term. So you guys should be prepared for that one, right? The other thing is, a lot of the times, the washer and dryer that are in the units, or at least connections, sometimes that's a requirement, right? And so, usually with Class A properties, there will always be a washer dryer connection or included, and with Class B properties, at least definitely in Austin or in Texas. So you're good on that standpoint, but sometimes units can't work, even if they're in a great location downtown, if they're Class C with no washer dryer connections, because it's like, how are they going to clean all the units or turn the sheets, the bed sheets, etc., with no washer and dryer in the unit, right? It makes like logistics a lot harder when they're turning these units every couple of days. And so, ask your vacation rental client as well. Say, hey, listen, I know you need longer than normal lease terms because that's the number one asset, right? I understand your business. What about the washer and dryer? Do you have your own solution if there's none in the building? Because you need to know this. That way you can filter for it on your database whenever you're running searches for your vacation rental client. So ask them about the washer and dryer, right? Another thing to keep in mind is that the most profitable areas basically in any market, in my experience, is going to be downtown or somewhere like unbelievably urban core, right? So like, just keep in mind when you do work with these larger vacation rental companies that know what they're doing, they're going to want to lease downtown units a lot, or like within 2 miles from downtown is where I see this happen a lot. So it's like, it's cool because it's like double the commission for you, and they lease a lot of units at once. So it's freaking awesome. Talk about hunting some ducks. Anyways, so understand that the primary location of interest for these short-term rental companies is downtown of your city. So you really should know that, right? Talk to them about that and or let them know that you understand, right? So that way you're showing competency as well. So another big thing is whenever you're giving a pitch to like a property manager or something about the opportunity, what you don't want to do is whenever you bring up your corporate client, what you don't want to do is ever use the word Airbnb, because Airbnb, it's become the number one largest short-term rental platform, but for some reason it's like it gets so much mixed reviews when it comes to property managers considering the opportunity to rent to a corporate client. Down beast. Never speak the words Airbnb. Just tell them it's a short-term rental client and that they run background checks. The background checks are really, really, really important. So when you bring on a client, you got to tell them, hey, listen, you guys have a basic background check system. And ask him about that, because that's definitely a question that a property manager is going to ask you, right? Whenever you say, hey, I've got a corporate client, they want to lease some units with you guys, are you interested in the opportunity? The couple things they're going to ask you is, first of all, hey, is it like an Airbnb company? And you got to go, no, they're really focusing on leasing in-house. And then you can say something like, naturally, they're on Airbnb because it's the number one platform. So like, ask them not lose out to business. They have to be on there, but mainly what their goal is to lease in-house and run their own proprietary background checks, and then that sort of alleviates anything, any other concerns, right? And don't worry about it too much. Your job as a locator is just to connect them, really, and then have your client or have the manager or the VP of sales of your corporate client answer all the questions, right? And so that's all you've got to say. You don't have to say too much, right, guys? So that's it. You're just making the introduction. But just keep that in mind, right? That you don't want to use the words Airbnb. And when it comes to the background check, just let them know that they have their own proprietary background check that they would be happy to discuss with them if they need to go into detail. Because remember, you don't work for the company, you're just a broker, right? But those two questions, it'll always come up: the background check and then Airbnb. So that's how you can kind of solve and answer those questions, right? So you need to understand that. Now, when it comes to your payment on these lease terms, a lot of the times I've been asked, whenever I'm in a meeting with a short-term rental client, a lot of the times the manager asks, hey, well, how are you going to be compensated? And what I like to do, obviously real estate is super custom, and so you could really ask for whatever payment you want. I guess if you want to do a lump sum fee, you could request for it, right? But what I personally like to do with the way I get paid is I tell them, hey, listen, I don't ask for anything more or less than what you would pay to a typical apartment locator per unit. That's all I say, right? So it's if I'm leasing 15 units, pay me the commission on each unit like you would with a normal apartment locator. I like to do it this way, even though I've seen other locators, I've talked to other top producers that ask for more whenever it's a corporate client. I mean, I just don't like to have those conversations because, first of all, it's just annoying. It's not really that pleasant to ask for more money than normal. And if you're asking for the normal amount of commission that they would pay to a normal locator, it's now they don't even have an excuse. There's no negotiation, right? It's you brought them a corporate client that's super qualified, that and you solved and you leased up a giant chunk of their vacancy once. So they're going to respect that, right? So when you ask for normal payment, like any other typical apartment locator that would lease someone with a credit issue that they accepted, they're absolutely not going to negotiate with you, and they're going to pay you the normal, locator commission, which ends up being a lot of money if it's 100% or more of each unit, right? We're talking 10, 20, 30 grand. So guys, just ask for the normal commission. Don't get greedy about it. And this way no one negotiates with you and you get paid every time and quick, right? Because let's say you did talk about a higher than normal payment. Okay, but now they're a little bit upset, and then how fast are you going to get that, right? So just ask for the normal commission is my advice, and there's tons of money in there anyways, right? And no one's doing this, so chances are you're going to be the only person marketing for these corporate clients in this certain way. Anyhow, guys, I just wanted to kind of let you know, my thoughts on the business and what to look out for, the questions to look out for, and how to prepare. And then I wanted you to really understand what the true asset is for the vacation rental companies, so you understand the sort of the nature of the client that you're representing if you choose to work with vacation rental clients. So Duck Hunters, I hope you appreciated that video. If you guys want an insight from an actual CEO that runs a vacation rental company, I have a video on that. It's titled Lessons in Locating, Talking to a CEO. Just skip to the middle of the video or so, and it's a real CEO that I call, and it's on video, and he basically tells you his input and advice on the vacation rental market as well. So check out that video if you haven't already. It's kind of cool to listen to someone with his job title to discuss it as well, so you can hear it from someone else, not just me. But anyways, Duck Hunters, I hope you enjoyed that video, and let's get on to the next.